Hi, everyone. Today we are going to talk to my dear friend, Natalie Armstrong-Motin. She is in Normandy, France, and we talked about how pets really expand our lives, enrich our lives, and why they matter on so many levels. This is a really interesting conversation you're not going to want to miss. Remember to like us and star us and tell people about us because why do pets matter? Matter to everyone you know. So let's hear what Natalie has to say now. Hi, I'm Debra Hamilton. Welcome to my podcast, Why Do Pets Matter? 10 years ago, with my iPhone and a script, I recorded the first episode of the Ultimate Pet Resolution Summit, which chatted with experts about conflicts over animals. Our conversations were intimate, honest, and illustrated how disagreements over animals occur and how those disagreements can reshape people's lives and relationships. In November 2019, I started Why Do Pets Matter, a new podcast that continued these informative discussions. I'm so excited to have you here with me, continuing my exploration into a more meaningful conversation about why pets matter to all of us. My guests and I will share ideas, stories, and experiences straight from the heart, unscripted and holistic. From the bravest moments to the most brokenhearted, we will explore how to resolve disagreements over animals differently. One thing I know for sure is I want to have more meaningful conversations that will help all of us unlock that deeply felt human-animal bond that drives the emotions of conflict. Hi, everyone. Debra Hamilton, and thank you again for coming to the podcast, Why Do Pets Matter? Remember to like and share because we have gotten to 10,000 downloads because of all of you sharing the wonderful information we're getting here. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce my good friend, Natalie Armstrong-Motin, who is an attorney like me and has many other wonderful fingers and pods, including a wonderful program that's on Thursdays at 11, and it's called Will Work for Food, and it's a bunch of attorneys who get together, and others I'm sure can join as well. And the price of admission is a donation to the charity of the speaker's choice, or your choice. It doesn't have to be the speaker's choice. However, every speaker brings a charity of their choice. I, of course, brought a dog rescue group for the Irish Setter Club of America. So it was wonderful to speak for Will Work for Food. But I asked Natalie to join me because we had started to talk offline about things that had to do with animals. And it just seemed to me that she needed to answer the question, why do pets matter, in terms of what we do as work now. So, Natalie, thank you so much for coming.
Debra, it's my pleasure. Thanks for inviting me.
Well, I had so much time on Idle Chat that it was just so much fun. And when we were finished, we were going on about this, and I went, I need to have you on my podcast. So we're going to ask you the question without further ado. Natalie, why do pets matter to you?
I think pets matter probably not just to me, Debra, but to humans for lots of different reasons. We know that pets are different than working animals. I grew up in rural Rocky Mountains. We had working animals. That's a bit different than pets. But pets, I think, matter probably more now after COVID in particular, because so many of our colleagues in the resolution industry are solopreneurs. And that really can take a toll on us as living beings. So when we are gifted by the company of furry roommates, it provides a lot of value. One, I won't speak for everyone, but my dog is more than happy to have me talk to her. And I can talk to her about what's going on with my day, the meeting that's coming up. I can strategize. I can curse. She never narks me out. She lets me do lots of things, but she also reminds me to step away from the screen. And when so many of us now work remote from home, staring at screens, making ourselves go blind, if you're lucky enough to have a dog that stands up every couple of hours and puts her paw on your leg and says, hey, dumb human, I realize you're only a biped and probably limited intellectually, but you need to step away from the screen and go outside and touch grass and look at trees and get some exercise. And I think that's really important. I think also we can't gloss over all of the science that tells us when we look into the eyes of our dogs, our brain chemistry changes and we get happier and calmer, and it releases this a similar hormone as when we look at babies. It releases oxytocin, and we are the great beneficiary of that eye-to-eye contact with our dogs. So for lots of great, I mean, also she warms my feet. I mean, there's benefits. You know, having a dog in particular around as we're working as solopreneurs, I think gives so much good stuff to us.
I couldn't agree more because you're right. When my dogs are down with my husband, I have to set an alarm for 45 minutes to remember to stand up. Otherwise, I'm automatically alarmed. And before we came on, of course, I shared with you that the cat walked across my screen. And now I have a little bit of a boondoggle on my Outlook that I have to figure out after we're done. So they create these changes and shifts in our day that are unexpected most of the time. And yet, as you rightly said, they provide that bit of oxytocin. I mean, the study of human animal bonds has exploded in the last, oh, I guess, 15 years since I started my practice, because people didn't realize just how impactful petting a dog, petting a cat, hearing the purring is on your body, your inner soul. And making that connection, I think, helps you be a better person. And you are absolutely right. And I'd love you to expand on some of your thoughts that we had spoke about before on the solopreneur, not only having the animals there for themselves, but even if the cat walks across the screen, it seems to make everyone in the mediation. I've never had anyone go, control your cat.
Control your cat, honestly, good luck with that. I could just as easily teach my cat to floss as I could tell it to not walk behind me when I'm on camera. But again, there is so much good value for us in having animals. And I think one of the important things that having pets, it keeps us in check, Debra, in the loveliest way, because I can't speak for everyone, but my cats don't go out and hunt for themselves. They're not barn cats, they're house cats. So I am honored and obligated to care for them. And I grew up with a multi-generational household, and you live in the country, and the animals were always cared for first. The first thing in the morning, all of the animals get cared for. Then you come in and you take your breakfast. And I think that little reminder of our social obligation to creatures and systems that are bigger than us is an important reminder that we're just here temporarily, and we're servants to a much bigger thing. So having animals is that good reminder. I also really like that modeling that my dog does. Every day that this little golden retriever mix, and she's a rescue. We rescued her from one of the local shelters here in Normandy. Every day that she wakes up is the best day ever. Every car trip is the best car trip ever. Every dinner is the best dinner she's ever consumed. And I think, again, as business people, and in particular solopreneurs, having that to model is really important. She lets go of yesterday, just like when she goes outside and does her business, kicks dirt over it and moves on. And that's a really good way for a lot of us to think about the things that happen in our daily lives.
Because our self-talk can really make us a little bit crazy. And the good news is our pets never self-talk negatively, although some cats can look at you in a way that would make you feel like you are failing them.
My cats definitely judge me. And from
In
time
our
to
opinion, they probably wouldn't even bother because we are lesser human beings than they are. Or we're lesser beings than they are. So it's probably us.
I think that's true. I suppose if they can be bothered to interrupt their day long enough to consider my existence, it probably comes with judgment that my socks don't match, or they're laughing at me because I, fall over putting on pajama pants. And then there's the other side of the cat community. We have 3 cats that my dog has adopted. And from time to time, I really wonder if they're not just plotting homicide.
Yeah.
Because breakfast is, they heard the church bells go off at 7 a.m. and breakfast is a bit late. Let's, pick up the pace here, human.
Yeah, that look that I get from Jane, or she'll stand at the top of the steps because I'm living in detente. My dogs don't like cats, and the cat I have who has messed up my computer is my son's cat. And so we have devised a way to keep the dogs downstairs and she has the upstairs. She will sit at the top of the steps and she will meow at the high pitch, which of course drives the dogs nuts, because I'm late. And you're right. And I absolutely drop everything and run and help her because I think you put it beautifully. We take care of them because they bring us so much love and joy. And on the farm, they bring you food, eggs, and some of them might have been slaughtered for food. And so you were taking care of that circle of life very well because you wanted everybody to be healthy. So it's more a case of making sure they're healthy, and well cared for, because in doing so, you ironically are making sure you're healthy and well cared for.
I could not have said it better. That's exactly right. It is teleocyclical, this relationship. And with the cats, the power imbalance is skewed in their favor for sure. But my dog, she loves cats, and when we see a cat cross the road, she keens and cries for it to be her friend. So these are her cats that live in my house. These are roommates of mine that she has brought into this relationship.
I love it. Yeah. So it's interesting because when we talk about dogs, they live for us. Every minute we're in their space, they are so, as you said, so thrilled. They don't hold anything against us. Some people who are listening might say, well, I might have a little terrier that does that. And I have a spaniel right now, an English Cocker Spaniel, who I identify with as she has a big opinion. The good news is that she's my husband's dog and he's never had a dog before. And he needs a big personality to get him up, and to get him moving. So she's the perfect dog for him. She and I definitely have words, but they're not negative words. They're just like, you are so bossy. You just think that this is what is going to happen. And what's really funny is 9 times out of 10, I do what she asks me to do.
We have the same conversation here. My husband will say something about he'll have an opinion or make a plan, and I'll say, "Yeah, that's fine. You can be the boss of that, absolutely." And he laughs and he says, "Oh, I am not the boss. There's no way I'm the boss. This dog, the boss, and I'm maybe number 3, 4, or 5 in this house. But no, no, wait." The smallest cat, that cat, the little cat, that cat, she, the boss, the dog, the boss, the other cats, and you, me, we number 5 and 6 in this house.
Yeah, they definitely run our lives.
I don't begrudge it one bit. I wouldn't have it any other way.
Right,
I
because I always say, so when unfortunately these wonderful beings and spirits leave our lives in transition, it's some people say, well, it was only a dog, it was only a cat, and you have several animals, I have several animals, and the grief that comes is for that wonderful soul. At least I think I'm hearing you say, and I'm pretty sure you'll agree, the adventure you were on with that soul was different than the adventure you were on with all the rest of them that have come before or that will come forward of us. When people say they'll never get another dog because they couldn't put up with the heartbreak or the cat, I go, oh, but you're denying yourself that adventure and that life and that wonderful experience. And you always remember them. You always walk past something, you go, oh, I remember when, for me, I've had so many dogs. I just go, oh, well, that was when I did that with Deirdre, and that was when I did that with Daisy. And that's what the love and wonder that they bring to our lives, the ruling actually keeps us grounded.
It really does. I think also animals, our dog, taught us a different level of communication and patience than you would get from a child or a grandchild. Again, she's a golden retriever mix, and the best thing in the world is window surfing. But it's not great for their eyes or their ears. And so my husband, because he's a big old French marshmallow, he bought her goggles, doggy goggles.
Right.
And so when you pull out the goggles, she just starts to vibrate with excitement. She bounces and talks to him and roar, roar, roar. And you put the goggles on, and then you get in the car and you roll the windows down. And in France, we are here quite famous for being somewhat aggressive with our driving habits. The French will
New
tell you,
Yorkers.
yeah, the French will tell you that soccer, football, is the national pastime. I will disagree and tell you that it's tailgating. So a bit aggressive, but we were driving down one of the county roads. Janny's head is out the window and she's got her goggles on, best day ever, ears flopping in the breeze. And we're talking about something, and my husband is starting to, his body posture has changed. And I said, what's wrong? And he said, oh, the people behind us are just horrible drivers, and what's going on, and I don't understand. This guy is just right on our tail, and he's not paying attention, and he and his wife, something's wrong. And he reacted in a very maybe normal way of sort of road ragey response, because his assumption was that the people behind us were road raging because we weren't driving fast enough or whatever their issue was. So my husband slowed down a bit at the next straight, and he moved over to the right, and the people, sure enough, they floored it and they went flying by us. They cut right in front of us and then slowed down. What they wanted was to hang out their own window and take a photograph of our dog wearing the goggles window surfing. And we had misread the cues. We had misread the intention. We didn't, there was just a vast level of miscommunication straight the way through. And all of a sudden we realized, oh no, they were in love with the moment as much as we were. And
they record it because they might never see you again.
yes. And so they wanted just that little minute to pull in front of us and take a photo of this dog surfing out the window with her goggles on. And we remind ourselves of that moment often because we do frequently misread social cues. And that was an excellent lesson in sussing out the difference between our assumption of the moment and what the truth of the moment is.
I always say, be curious. So why are they riding on my bumper? And we do sometimes tend, depending on our morning, depending on our afternoon, depending on our day, how do we respond to that? If we had a great day, you'd be laughing and chuckling. Look at those people. I wonder why they're riding on the bumper. But if you had a really bad day at work, then you have a negative response. It's a perfect segue because of the fact that we started off with this on how a lot of the solopreneurs who do mediation or collaborative practice have their pets in their homes to keep them settled. When we are practicing our expertise or profession, being able to remember that great story with the goggles, why are these people so at each other? What is going on? And often they never get the chance to stop and ask the curious question because they have put up those barriers, put up those walls, deflected everything that could have possibly broken a little chink in their armor. Oh, you mean she's not that mean? You mean she's just wants to do this? And I know with my practice with pets, the emotions run so strong. So immediately you go to guns. And I mean that in the nicest way. But instead of thinking, okay, what would the dog do? And I have to tell you, in most of my mediations, when they're going back and forth, I go, okay, so if you ask the dog what would be the best thing for them right now, what would they do and say?
And I think that is the most powerful question. Yeah. In our house, the answer would definitely be my husband would keep the dog and send me packing.
Yeah.
No question about it.
That would be Stella. Yes. With Stella now, I'd be out the door. And before, I guess my husband would say, I had to laugh when you told the story about your husband being last on the totem pole. My husband often tells the story that we built the house around the kennel, which was in the basement. And that he has always, when people say, Jim, it doesn't seem like you're, very important on the pecking order. And he goes, That line is long and distinguished. He goes, I think the kids might be ahead of the dogs, but maybe not.
I'm going to say it's a mediator's answer, and it depends, right? Yeah,
It,
we rent Airbnbs based on whether or not our dog will like it or not. We take
yep.
holidays based on whether or not we can take the dog, what mode of transportation is available to us, and will she enjoy it when we get there? So is there a beach? Is there snow? Is there a forest? Is there something for the dogs? We also judge pretty harshly those communities or even whole countries that lack dog parks. Yeah. When we lived in the Netherlands, by the way, Debra, in the Netherlands, dog parks are called dog dating sites.
I love that. I love that. Here in the United States, so I'd love to ask you a few questions about that, because here in the United States, I have a very dear friend, Beth Miller, who's done academic research on how to build really good dog parks with responsibility and accountability and size and shape and blah, 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 so that people really respect the other animals. What sometimes happens in a dog park, at least here in the United States, especially in big cities where they're more prevalent, they stop watching their dog and they don't make sure their dogs are good citizens. And, when you have a dog park, it is really based on how those animals are good citizens. And you don't want your dog bitten and you don't want your dog to bite another dog. So, how do they do that in the Netherlands and beyond? Because it really is something that is personal responsibility and accountability.
It is. So in the Netherlands, first, I've never lived in a community that had infrastructure for dogs in the same way that the Dutch do. So in the Rocky Mountains, you'll find lots of small towns are very dog friendly, animal friendly. The drive-through teller at the bank has dog biscuits, and restaurants have out dog bowls, and they have terraces that are pet friendly, really dog friendly environments in the West. But in the Netherlands, they actually had infrastructure for animals that I thought was truly brilliant. They have a color-coded system for you to take advantage of, and it's based off of traffic lights. You can put a kerchief or a leash or a collar or a t-shirt or a parka on your dog that, if it's red, means I don't want to be friends with you or your dogs. Stop, don't approach. I'm not that kind of dog. And then there's the yellow jacketed dogs, or they have yellow ribbons or leashes or kerchiefs. And those are dogs that you could be friends with me, but you need to come at it slowly. We're going to work up to it. We'll be friends. Just give me a minute, right? Caution. And then there's the green jacket dogs, the green kerchief dogs, and they're everybody's best friend right away. And when are we going to have a slumber party? And the dog parks are designed in stages. So there will be 3 different sections of a dog park. And if there's a dog in one of the areas and it's got the red parka or the kerchief on, then you put your dog in one of the other areas and let that dog have its moment to run leash free and have balls and frisbees and play with its person. And you put your yellow dogs with other yellow dogs and your green dogs with other green dogs. Really, for me, made it so much easier to go to the park and kind of know where I needed to be. And it let me respect the other dogs and the other people without having to speak their language necessarily. It was this fabulous symbol that I could recognize everywhere. So our dog is a green kerchief dog. So we would walk her, and she always wanted to be walked at 4 p.m. And I couldn't figure out why was that number magical. 4 p.m. is when the school lets out. So she was always asking to go for a walk because she got all the love and caress and pets from all the kids
Children walking by.
Yeah. And so she wanted to go at 4 because she got to play with all the kids. And because she was wearing green, all the kids knew that they could play with her. Mm-hmm. And over time, they learned that she spoke French and English, and that she knew this, menu of tricks. They could get her to do tricks. And she got introduced to their grandparents, and it created really lovely, lasting relationships. So I liked that infrastructure. I also liked in the Netherlands that, because it gets quite cold in the winter, they have heated igloos outside of their supermarkets, because in the summer you bicycle everywhere, and in the winter you cross country ski and toboggan everywhere in the village. So it's cold. Our dog loves the snow, loves to play, loves to jump in the snow drifts and chase snowballs, but you can't leave them just outside while you're in the market. So they have these heated igloos at the market, and you put in a little token, and the flap opens up, and you can put your puppy inside. And I have biscuits and treats and food and water on the interior. You go in, do your shopping, you come out, you put in your code, your token gets popped out, and there's your dog back safe and sound. In the summertime, they have coat check, but for your animals. So you walk up, you hand over the leash, you take your claim ticket, and your dog is right there waiting for you after you finish your marketing and whatever it is that you need to do. So they have these organized ways in which we can be better stewards to our pets and to our neighbors and their pets.
That's so important because I'm going to share that with Beth. I'm sure she knows, but I didn't know that they did that because that makes so much sense. And I might actually use a dog park if I knew that it was red and yellow, because my Irish setter is definitely a yellow. He is an independent guy. He likes other dogs, but if your green dog came up to my yellow dog would be so mannerless, so in need of training, whatever. He would be like, forget it and walk by. We actually just had that with a young Labrador who must have been altered very early because his legs were like so long. And that's what happens when you alter when they're like 6 weeks old. And he was out of his mind to meet Junie, and Junie was like, that one has no manners. And so I'm not going to meet that one. Now, if Mariah was here, I guess she's 4, my 4-year-old girl, she would be green. And so your golden and my Irish would be rolling in tumbles everywhere because that's Mariah. And Junie actually taught Mariah that she needed to gain a little bit of manners because she would plow into him, and it's his daughter. She would plow into him and he would just give her a look. And she'd be like, okay, I'll try not to do that again, but I can't promise.
It is a lot of playground politics, and they have to figure it out for themselves, but we can definitely help in that.
Oh,
We can
absolutely.
definitely not make it more difficult for them. We might not be able to fix it and get it right all the time, but we certainly can not make it worse.
So in my neck of the woods, of course, when something goes wrong, the emotions flare, and everything gets blown out of proportion when in fact, but for the grace of God, go you and your dog if something goes wrong. How we address that, sort of like the doggles, how we address that when they're meeting each other, and maybe one dog's a little over exuberant and the other dog feels a little frightened because he's a yellow toward a red, and the other one's a yellow toward a green. So, whatever. Having that conversation, I have found it is so hard. I put up a video when I first started in like 2011 or 12 with Stop, Drop, and Roll. But I said, if your neighbor's dog is barking, or if you got into a scuffle, or your dog bit someone, do the best you can to breathe and recognize that emotion is ruling the day if you can, which Natalie, is very hard to do when it's your pet. Either it's injured or somebody else is injured and everybody's going crazy. But if you can take a step back and just appreciate and acknowledge how they're feeling and not add fuel to the fire. Really hard because my dog has a puncture wound, or I have a puncture wound. Or my dog got away because your dog opened the gate, or whatever it was. It's really hard when animals are concerned, because I think we feel we're their protectors. So like you and your husband, here you were in the car with the doggles, and you didn't know you were protecting her because, well, this car is coming up higher on us, and if they hit us, something might happen to her. And so, we're going to really think of all the things that could go wrong. And when you're in that mindset, we both know because of what we do for a living, to take a breath and take a moment can sometimes diffuse that difficult outcome.
Yeah. But again, I think we can learn so much from them. They model just the most extraordinary characteristics. There's a young man that lives in our village who struggles with some learning challenges and some communication challenges. And somehow our dog knows that she has to move a little bit more slowly, be a little bit more patient. And she stops and lets him approach her to get all the hugs and kisses that he wants. Now his mother has lost her mobility and is in a wheelchair, and he pushes her in the wheelchair around the village on the nicer days. And our dog Janny still recognizes them. And so she approaches, and the lady can't lift her arms any longer. But Janny will sit next to her chair, and then she wedges her nose under the lady's hand because she can move her fingers still. And
Yeah.
so she puts her head in this lady's lap, wedges her nose under the hand, so that this woman can experience the love and the petting and the fur and the warmth that is so important to her. And it took a while for her son to communicate to us that she really enjoyed it, because they had a golden retriever that passed away, and it was heartbreaking for them. So for our golden to approach them on the sidewalk and just give them just those few moments, we're not there 10 minutes even. It's a really small time investment on our part. And for this son and his mother, it means the world to them. And so as we see them coming and going, we make an effort to put on our shoes and go outside and share the, you got to share the puppy love, man. That's the good stuff in life.
Share it, absolutely. It is amazing how, as you said, and I loved it. And I'll add that if dogs are in a disagreement in a park, they can probably get over it a lot quicker than their owners, which is always the case with kids too. But the fact that you are giving them this opportunity, I'm affiliated with a group called the National Dog Show Therapy Dog Symposium out of Rowan University in New Jersey. The people who train and share their dogs, and not all dogs are therapy dogs. Not all dogs are like Jenny, who recognizes and understands some dogs are better than others. And those can then be certified as therapy dogs, and they do it every day. They go and give that warmth, and I want to say the smell, but it's that smell of my old dog, because I'm sure that woman, when she, maybe lifts up her hand later on, or will smell Jenny and say, "Ah, that smells like my old dog," because that is the piece that we can never replicate. Every dog has its own, but every dog brings that memory to us and makes our lives whole. Roger Karras for the Westminster Kennel Club show, he was, I think, the head of AKC or Westminster, I'm not sure which one. He has a saying that says, he says dogs, but I think you can use it for pets as well. Pets are not our whole life, but they make our lives whole.
Without a doubt. If you've ever had a moment in your life, some of us have moments, some of us have seasons, some of us get years of a moment. And you share that moment with a horse, and had a horse drop their head onto your shoulder and curl their neck around and pull you in to their body. That connectivity is a uniquely horse thing. Our dogs do it. Our dog is a natural nurse dog, therapy dog. And she can set, I don't know how, it's a superpower. It's beyond me. I appreciate it greatly, but she knows when you're not okay with something, and she'll just come and be present. She's just present. And that is so important.
She doesn't have to talk. She doesn't have to paw you. She just lays there. And it's amazing how they know, because I've had multiple things replaced or fractured in the last 5 or 6 years. And my dogs are big dogs, and they always knew that, oh, well, I have to be careful now because mom's a bit fragile. And yet they'd all lay on the bed, and just as I was feeling better, then they would jump on me and almost kill me. Yes. Because they knew, okay, she's better now. We can accost her the way we used to. They're very good body readers, I'm pretty sure. Natalie, this has been wonderful. I can't believe 30 minutes has gone by so fast. I know that everyone can look for you on LinkedIn, Natalie Armstrong-Motin, and I really encourage everyone to see what Natalie's up to besides what she writes and what she's involved with. As you can tell from this discussion, the reason I brought Natalie here to talk to us about why do pets matter is because she has such a deep and insightful feeling about how animals affect our lives. So thank you, Natalie.
It has been my absolute pleasure. Why do pets matter? Because they make us better humans.
They truly do. And until next time, everyone, thank you so much for being here. Remember to like us and share us so other people can find us. Take care and kiss your pets for me.